Anakin back again today for my next installment into my Road to Infinity War series. We got the second Avengers film, Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm going to tell you this right now. When I went and saw this movie, it felt like seeing something that it really did feel like seeing something that I was not prepared for, and that I was just so excited that when I saw it, my eyes were just like exploded with just joy of how great this movie really was, how many amazing moments and how many just amazing Avengers moments were in this movie, and I loved it. But I think the mistake I made when I did see this movie first was I was like, oh my god, this movie is amazing, this movie is better than the first Avengers, like, oh my god, like, Joss Whedon, you did it, you made like the ultimate Empire Strikes Back of the MCU. And thinking it back, I love this movie, but I do not love it as much as the first Avengers. I really don't. You'll see where it ranks once I rank all these movies after Infinity War comes out, but still standing, Avengers is on a highest pedestal. But once I saw this movie, like, that's how good this was, that like the first shock factor was enough to make me feel like, oh my god, I love this movie. But like, yeah, it's like me back then was like really just high off the buzz, so I was like thinking like, bring it back. Yeah, I love the first Avengers a little bit more. Yeah, like, just put that out there. But that doesn't mean that I don't love this movie. There are so many things in this movie. I think Joss Whedon once again made an amazing movie, and my favorite part about these movies is how he directs the action scenes, especially the one-take action sequences. When I remember because they showed some of it in the trailer, but I remember just sitting in awe in the opening scene where all you see is everyone they come out where it was, I believe it starts out with Romanoff and Hawkeye, and they come in on a car, and then Thor jumps over, and then Thor jumps on a tower, and then he beats up those guys, and all you see is that guy that falls to the ground, Cap drags him, and he throws him, and then like you all see them all fighting and everything, and then eventually you get that one big shot of all of them running through, and it goes slow-mo, and then like just that alone, I'm a sucker for one take action sequences, and that hit me right to like, yes! But as far as all the characters go, I love what they did with every single one of these characters. To further them along, I think the two that stand out for me that got the most like development were Romanoff and Hawkeye, or well, I guess three, and Hulk. Because when you really think about it, Hulk doesn't have his own movie, or at least this iteration of the Bruce Banner that we know now after Avengers. He doesn't have we don't know a lot more about him, so you get to explore a little bit what goes on in his head as far as when he turns into the Hulk, and then you get a lot more of Black Widow's backstory. Not a lot, but you get a lot more than we were accustomed to after all these times, so I really enjoyed that. I really loved what they did with Natasha, and the fact that we get to see Hawkeye have like a family and all that stuff. I really like that. And a lot of people don't, but I feel like it was like, at the least, it slows the movie down just a little bit. At the least, it slows the movie down just a little bit, but I was okay with that because I was one of the people that loved Hawkeye coming out of Avengers 1. So I was like, well, what can I ask for? Mind control or family development? Family development, right? Now, get on the new characters, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I am so mad that they killed Quicksilver, but I'm so glad at the same time that they did, because I love what Edwin Peters is doing in the X-Men world, but I do love their iteration of Wanda Maximoff. I think what they did with these twins were awesome, and I really I wish they didn't kill them, but I love how her arc is transformed into this movie and how she has become a greater like sense and hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. I love the introduction of Vision. Vision is a welcome addition to our Avengers roster and becoming one of the most important figures leading into Infinity War, and I loved what they did with Ultron.
No strings on me.
James Spader is the voice of Ultron, and I love what they did with James Spader. I think the CG of it could look a little wonky at times, but that's because like you think of this massive movie that probably needs like They probably could have used the extra few $1 million that they didn't have, so I'll give him a pass on that. But James Spader's performance was great. I loved his voice, and I loved that he had kind of a comedic. He had kind of had a comedic tone, but it was more like a dark humor, and I really loved what they did with his character. And he was still menacing at the same time. Now, I just want to mention this. One of my favorite scenes of this entire movie was the party scene, and especially when everyone is gone and everyone's just drinking and having fun, and like basically you can tell everybody's pretty much drunk, and I love that because they're all trying to give a crack at lifting Thor's hammer, and this is one of the greatest like MCU non-fighting action moments ever. I love this scene because you see all of them just having a good time, like lifting it up, and my favorite part is when Cap lifts it and it nudges, and then like he's like, "Ugh," and then he lets go and he gives up. He didn't try all the way, by the way. He didn't try to lift it fully. He just gave up. And you see Thor's reaction, and he's like, and he looks at him like, and then he drops. He's like, "Oh, nothing." Like, great, love that. One of my favorite interactions with any and all of the MCU characters ever. I love that. As far as the storyline goes, I love this movie for what it did for what it did for all the Avengers, bringing Tony through this emotional journey of having to feel like that he wants to protect this. He wants to put the world and to protect it all, but then he really reaps what he sows when he builds Ultron. And I loved the parallels of having taking it down, and then again when him having to build Ultron, like having to build another AI machine to destroy the one that he already did. Like I loved every second of being able to see another iteration of Tony Stark's character being reanalyzed into like, well, should we be making these things or not? Like I loved what they did with Tony's character, and I think Ultron's plan was great because that's ripped right out of the comics. Not the Sokovia part, but wanting to destroy all life, because like I loved it. I loved every single second of it, and I've asked for a better iteration of Ultron. I feel like Joss Whedon killed it with this movie, and I loved every single time that he gave us a moment to really get to feel the humanity of the Avengers, especially when they all are completely beaten down by Scarlet Witch. I loved how we were able to see like each and every one of these characters have their own internal struggle that they were going through, and having to figure out them as part of the team. Because like in the first one was all assembling them together, but this was like you having to see all the teams working together, but it's not like they weren't broken already. I love what they did with that, and I loved, again, going off more of the, like character stuff, action scenes. Hulk versus the Hulkbuster. I remember that trailer, and I remember losing my mind when I saw the Hulkbuster. This is seriously one of my favorite fight scenes and best suit-ups of all time as far as Iron Man suits go. Like, seriously, man. Like, seriously, still, my favorite part about it is when Tony gets the one-up on him and he clocks him and then he hits the ground and he looks up and he just spits a tooth out. Like, oh, so good. Like, just, I love, like, you could tell, I love this movie. I love this movie. A lot of people give it crap. I love this movie. Now, let's think, is there anything I'm forgetting? I guess we'll talk about Sokovia. I loved the whole end fight scene of Sokovia. It's not New York in Avengers, but it is still one of the greater end battles of all the MCU as a whole. I really liked it because I think visually it's more appealing than other ones, and a lot more or less the characters and the Avengers inside of it are really cool as well, because you have Scarlet Witch, like you have Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye, and like, oh, that's another thing I love about Hawkeye in this movie. He gives her that pep talk, so great. Like, I love that, what it means to be an Avenger and stuff. But you have like Quicksilver swinging across her and Hawkeye, and then you have Thor, and they're all fighting all of these robots and stuff. I loved it. And Ultron drones. I am smarter than that. I don't call them robots. But I loved having all of the different characters, and then all of them at the end, he's like, "Is that the best you could do?" And that whole end shot of slow-mo, everybody fighting and everything, so great. I love this movie. I think Joss Whedon directed a incredible second part to the Avengers. I was not asking for I want the next best movie after Avengers 1. I was not expecting that. It's hard for me to expect that. It's not like every day there's a Dark Knight or an Empire Strikes Back, or a Winter Soldier. There's not every day we get something like that. So it's okay if it's just a little bit under it for me because I love it. It's still entertaining and it's still an Avengers movie. And even back a couple years ago, we would still never think that an Avengers movie would be possible, let alone two. Thank you so much for watching. I cannot wait to hopefully close out Phase 2 with my review of Ant-Man. Yeah, little tiny movie, but thank you so much for watching. I can't believe I've already almost gone through all of Phase 2. Avengers Age of Ultron. And there's a freaking vacuum in the shot.